Hello, folks. Welcome to back to the Working with Workspace series, and I'd like to welcome you to the Google Chat episode, where we're going to take a deep dive into instant messaging within Google Workspace, and specifically take a look at rooms within Google Chat and how they can be used effectively for both internal and external communication. What we're going to cover today, after I introduce myself and why we're talking, I also want to lay out the landscape of why you might consider using messaging as opposed to email, particularly for internal email. Although external collaboration is allowed too, we see particular benefits for the internal email case. I also want to give you an overview of what Google Chat is and the different functionality within it, and then we'll take you into a deep dive of the different features and functionality within rooms within Google Chat, because they're particularly effective for allowing quick and easy communication and collaboration. And then we'll round things up with a conclusion at the end. Just to introduce myself, I'm Rowan Manson. I'm a workspace sales specialist for SADA. Over the last 5 years, I've helped hundreds of organizations move to and make the most of workspace, and I'm very passionate about the positive change that it can bring to organizations. So delighted to be showing you one of the tools within the workspace suite today. So just before I explain about the Google Chat product, what it is, the benefits that it offers, and then we go for the deep dive into chat rooms, I wanted to lay out some of the reasons why you might consider using chat or messaging as an alternative to email, and I mentioned particularly it's effective at reducing internal email. And I know from some of the folks at SADA, even some of the team here, after I've explained some of the features, they've seen an improvement in their work themselves. So I'm keen to share with you all the tools that you have available to you and why this can be so beneficial. So one of the first reasons that I like chat, and one of the benefits that we see of that tool over email, is that it's a lot more interactive. So when you're using messaging, it's a lot quicker to reply with a fast message than take the effort to write out a longer form email. And also you have features within chat like emoji reactions, which allow for a different kind of participation that doesn't feel as committal as writing a full email. A quick chat emoji can signify how you feel about a particular statement without having to write a full comment or email back, which is nice. Another advantage of chat over email is that you can organize nice to manage centralized places around a specific purpose. Like perhaps you're working on a project with a particular group of people, or perhaps you have a location, perhaps you have a department or office that you work in, and you can set up different places for different topics of conversation that are centralized and always there, unlike email threads, which are a lot more scattered and difficult to manage. So that can be useful too. Also, one of the advantages of chat that it can have over email is that it's a lot faster. So email, like I said, it encourages a more long form style of writing where you write out a full sort of comment and send it off, whereas chat usually tends to be shorter messages and people tend to interact much more quickly. So we tend to find that people get things done and decisions get made faster when we use chat instead of email. And lastly, the chat service is a lot more integrated and dynamic in terms of how it integrates with the other tools within Workspace. So, for example, you can add drive files and folders into chat rooms and they'll stay there and update live. And it also integrates with Meet links. So within one click, which I'll show you later on when we go into chat, I can add a Meet link into a chat room and indicate to other people that I want to chat, and we can join a meeting in seconds, whereas that process via email would be a little more laborious. So that's some of the reasons why you might want to consider using chat instead of email. So let me go on to introduce what the Google Chat product is and why you might want to consider using it. Google Chat is an instant messaging solution that is built into Workspace. It is the tool that's integrated with all the others, like I mentioned, Google Drive and Google Meet, and it allows you to message both internal and external users. Like many of the other Google tools, it's available on any device at any time in any location with an internet connection, which is another great advantage of using the chat service. It's always available and always there whenever you need to use it. For mobile, whether you're on iOS or Android, there'll be apps where you can access it. And when you're on a Chrome device or a Mac or a Windows device, you can use it through the browser, and it's always available no matter which device you're using, which is great. Another feature of chat, which I can show you, is the different sections or elements or features within it. For example, you have people where you can have one-to-one or direct messaging, and then you also have groups where you can have multiple people belonging to a chat thread. And then the feature that we're going to have a look at today, which is called Rooms, allows you to really organize chat files and tasks around a specific purpose or theme. And then lastly, one of the most clever things that's built into Google Chat, and this is one of the things that I introduced to my colleagues, and they found it made a real difference, is chat bots. So these are integrations with either other workspace tools or third-party tools, where you can interact with those tools within the chat service. And I'll show you how you can use something called the Google Drive bot to manage your Google Drive notifications, comments, and file shares within chat instead of email. So instead of receiving all these emails when you're tagged in files, you can manage that stream in chat instead. And lastly, I mentioned this earlier, you can collaborate externally with people outside of your workspace domain as well. So anyone that has a workspace account or even a consumer Google account can chat with you and communicate and collaborate using chat, which is great. Before we dive into rooms within chat and how they can be so effective, I want to quickly show you the Google Chat interface and explain some of those features that I mentioned earlier, such as rooms, bots, and groups. So this is the chat interface on the web. At the top left, we have this search bar where we can do a lot of different actions like start a new group, create a room, browse the rooms that we have been invited to, use the bots, the integrations that I mentioned earlier, or do other things like manage message requests. We also have a search bar at the top right, which is great. We can click on this and it allows us to search the particular direct message or room that we're in, and we can also select to search through all of the rooms and direct messages. This is very powerful indeed. It lets us search through our entire chat history and find information really easily. And we can also use these things called search chips at the bottom here to select and filter our results even more. So for example, I can search for a keyword in all of my chat history and it'll only bring up results where there is a Google Doc mentioned, which is great. So we have the search bar at the top left, which allows us to interact with different elements of chat. We have the search, which allows us to search our data and filter what we want to see. And then down the left-hand side, you'll see that we have three main sections: chat, rooms, and bots. So chat is where we have direct messages and groups, where we interact with individuals or we create a group for a quick piece of communication that isn't really there to stay. Whereas rooms are a much more permanent feature. That's where you create a certain specific area where you can work on a theme or topic. And then bots, like I mentioned earlier, is where you have integrations with other workspace services or third-party tools as well. If I click the plus here, you'll see some of those services that exist here. Some great integrations that have been created. And I see there's 98, which is fantastic. 98 different bots within chat. So just wanted to lay out the interface a little bit there in general before we get into the specifics on rooms. Now we're going to take a deep dive into the feature that I'm very excited to talk about, which is rooms within Google Chat. This is a place where you can set a permanent fixture of communication and collaboration around a particular theme or topic. Like, for example, I mentioned maybe you have an office location that you work in, maybe there's a particular project that you're working on. Any place where you need to store pieces of communication, files, and tasks, rooms are a fantastic way to manage that and have it centralized in one place. So the topics that I want to take you through within rooms are: how do you create a room and how do you manage the security, the membership, and the permissions around the room? And there's some great features in here which are very helpful. One of the problems with email is that it can be a little unsecure with all the spam messaging that we get. So the controls within rooms, when you go to create them and manage them, are really powerful and effective for that. I also want to touch on conversations and threading, how you can split up, even within this centralized place around a specific topic, you can then subdivide the conversation within there into different threads. And that's a really powerful way of keeping a section of communication on one specific topic only. And it kind of gets rid of the problem in email where you have too long emails with too many subjects, and allows you to split them up much more effectively, where you can target individual pieces of information much more effectively than in one big thread, which is great. I also want to explain about all of the different actions and integrations that you have within Rooms. So you can add in files, and there's a really nice integration where if you share a Drive file with a room, then Google will prompt you to change the permissions on that file automatically to share it with the members of that room without you doing anything. It automatically adds the permissions or prompts user to add them, which is great. So there's some integrations like Drive and Meet and some other features there which are fantastic. I also want to mention the other aspects apart from messaging, which is there's sections within Rooms for managing tasks and files associated particularly with that room, which is very helpful. This is one of the points I was mentioning around Rooms being a centralized place to manage the different aspects of a project or a thing that you're working on. And then lastly, I want to have a look at some of the bot integrations that you can use. I showed the list earlier of 98, but I want to show you an example of how you can use this in practice and how it can be effective. So let's jump in and have a look at creating a room and how you can manage the people and settings within a room. Okay, so here we are in my Google Chat. And I'm going to show you us creating a room and the different management and security settings that we have. So if I go over to the left-hand side and click the plus next to rooms, you'll see that this box pops up and I can enter a few different settings. So first I'm going to enter a room name. We'll just call this demo room. And then I'm going to add an emoji, which is quite a nice little feature that you can do. It sets the tone of the room or the project that you're working on. So I'm going to go for the sunglasses. And then if I want to add internal users only to this room, then I simply need to type in the users here and add them. However, in this example, I actually want to show how you can use this to message people that aren't under your workspace domain and are outside your domain, either as a workspace user or maybe they have a consumer Google account. They can use that also. So I'm going to tick this box, and this is one of the security settings that I was mentioning that you have access to. If you tick this one on, it allows external users to be added to the room. Otherwise, you can keep it unticked and it can be set to internal only. So in this example, I'm going to add my two colleagues here, Kenneth and Samantha. All right, and again, this is another one of the security features. You'll see that anyone who is not a user in my workspace domain gets marked very clearly with this orange external tag to indicate that they are not a user in my domain, they're someone else. This is again one of the great security features that you have access to. So I'm going to add Samantha too. She shows up in orange there. And the last setting that I want to mention before we create the room is this one to use threaded replies. I'm really a big fan of using threads within rooms. I think it's a very effective way to split up the conversation, like I was mentioning earlier, into different sort of subtopics within the room, and it means people get less bogged down and more easily able to accessibly communicate with information in a way that an email thread or a longer chain of communication doesn't allow for so much. So in this case, I'm going to click Use Threaded Replies, enable that, and then I'm going to click the Create button, and that's the room created. I should highlight this is one of the things or features that seems pretty obvious, but it's really important, is that me as an end user or anybody who's a workspace user, as long as the setting's enabled, can create a room. So this is not something you have to rely on an admin or a manager to do. Any user at all in Workspace can create a room for whatever purpose they need, and within a few seconds they have it set up. So the first thing you'll see underneath Add People and Bots, which I just did, is the New Thread button. So if I want to start a topic of conversation, about anything at all, I can click New Thread, and it's giving me a little indication of what I'm going to do. Use threads to divide rooms by topic. So I can click Got it. So I can say hi, and then I'm going to tag one of my colleagues, Kenneth. I created this room for us to use. And there we go. And you'll see that any thread that I create, I automatically get tagged with this following icon. And this means that I'm going to get notifications for any replies that get sent to the thread. Otherwise, if I create a new thread, or my colleague does, and I'm not tagged in that thread or following it, then I won't get notified in the same way that I will if I have this following icon added, which is great. This is a way that you can segment how much attention you have to spend on your rooms. The notifications are dependent on this tag, which is great. So that's us created a room, and I wanted to show you some of the settings before we move on to the different abilities that you can do within a room. So if I click the drop down at the top here, you can see that at any time I can view the members within the room, and if I don't like Kenneth, which is definitely not the case, I can remove from room, but I'm not going to because I like him. So Kenneth gets to stay. Other things that I can do, I can add additional people if I want to, and I can also add bots in. I'm going to show you what they are later on, how you can use those integrations with other services. Otherwise, apart from that, I can change the name later on and the emoji if I want to. I can manage webhooks or different external integrations too. I can do things like pin the room. So you can pin either direct messages, rooms, or groups, and all it does simply is it moves that chat that you've pinned to the top of the chat menu, so you can see it as an important chat or room or group, I guess, which can be handy. And then the other things I can do are if I don't want to be notified at all, then I can turn off notifications, or I can even leave or block and report if I've been added to some sort of spam room that I don't want to be involved in. So that would be the different options and settings when you're creating a room or managing it. Okay, so I now want to just impress upon you the importance or the usefulness of using different threads within rooms, and why that's an effective way to split up the different parts of communication in a much more accessible way than having just one solid stream. So I already showed you me creating a completely new thread earlier, and you can see that I have this following tag. If I want to talk about something else, I can now hit new thread and say, let's see, what is the budget for the project? So I can ask this question, and if someone wants to keep talking in this above thread, they can do so without interrupting my new question, which I really like. And in this way, it's much more accessible. People can reply to this without interrupting my other thread. I can do things, other abilities within threads, like add files and meet links, which we're going to show you later. And again, that will only be, and it'll be completely relevant just to that conversation. It doesn't interrupt the other one, which is really nice. You'll also see this little follow or unfollow tag, which I can do. This affects the type of notification that I get. And there's different colors to indicate the different types of notifications that you get depending on whether you are following or not following. You'll get a stronger notification for the threads that you're following if people reply or if they tag you in that thread, whereas you'll get a weaker one if you're not following that conversation, and that sort of splits up the different notifications a bit more nicely for you. And you always have that option, of course, if you really want to turn off all notifications for the room. Actually, a detail that I should mention there is that if anyone asks you in the room, you still get notified, but every other message, it won't notify you in any way, which is nice. So that is how you can use threads within a room to split up different parts of conversation. Okay, so now that I've created my room and I've configured the settings appropriately, added the different members, and I've also created a couple of different threads within the room, I want to show you some of the different abilities that you have, and some of these are very helpful in comparison to email and can be a bit more effective. So one of the first fun things that I think you can do, which is great, is that I can react to any line or any message within a thread with an emoji reaction, which is great. It allows for a bit more fun and interactive type communication style than just written, which is great. So I can do anything I want here and it can get fun. I have a little button here that I can move a message into my inbox. So if someone gives me a task, or if I want to highlight a particular message that's been sent in some way and use it to move into email, I have this button which very handily just will forward that into my email inbox for me to use. I can also edit a message after I've sent it. This is definitely not something that you can do with an email. Once you send an email, it's gone, and there's definitely, I think everyone's had a few mistakes in that regard. So being able to edit messages is definitely handy. And when you do so, you'll see that you get a little edited sign that comes up and indicates that someone's edited a message. Something else that you can do if you really make a mistake is you can completely delete the message, which is real nice too. Not something that I can do in email as well. So that one's very handy. Aside from me reacting with emojis and being able to forward it to my inbox, edit or delete, I can also upload files from my computer. If I want to, I can add files in from Google Drive, and you'll see that when I do so, it very handily asks if I want to share or change the permissions for this file to share it with the room members. So you can see here it's prompted this dialog box where I can share with room members, and I can choose the access level that I give: view, comment, or edit. I can even turn on link sharing to share it with the whole organization if I think that's appropriate too. Or I can even don't give access if I want as well. So I get all of the different options, and it's nice that it prompts me and realizes that it won't be shared with the people in the room until I do this action. So it's nice that it automates it for you, makes it very easy. So aside from uploading a file and adding one from Drive, the last thing that you can do here is add in a Meet link, and within a few seconds, people can join a video call and be talking and seeing each other about whatever is relevant in the project. So that's some of the different actions that you can do within Rooms that are a bit different to email and maybe encourage participation a little bit more so than email does. Okay, so now I want to show you how you can use files and tasks within Rooms to manage different aspects of the project than just chatting in different threads. So you'll see here that I'm in the Gmail interface of chat. There's different integrations built within Gmail now, which are fantastic. So without even leaving Gmail, I can use the chat service. I can use Google Meet down here, and even in the right-hand side panel, use other services like Calendar and Keep. But for now, within the room, I want to show you these two other options that we have. So within the files section, I can upload and add files here from Drive. And in that way, these files are stored within the room for me to access at any time and become a centralized resource instead of us having to scramble around and look for where they are, or even leave at best to go to a Drive folder that we've created for that purpose. I can bring those files into the room and have them stored within one place right next to where we chat, which is great. And I also know that further down the line, coming later this year, there'll be an ability for you to create a new Google Doc sheet or slide directly within a room without even leaving again, which is fantastic. Love that. So lastly, I want to show you tasks and how these can be used too. So this integrates with Google Tasks. You can have individual tasks in the sidebar over here, but for this area within a room, we have room-specific tasks. So I can click to create a new task here. I could say create a new doc for the agenda, and I can add further details if I want. I can add a date and time. So for example, next week at 9 a.m. And then lastly, I can assign someone to the task too. So let's go for Samantha. And then if I click add, this now becomes a task within the room that we can manage and keep track of, delete, update as required. So in this way, we can use a room for managing the different pieces of conversation that are going on. We can use it to manage the files centrally associated with the room, and also any tasks that are required to do. Lastly, what I want to show you is how you can use bots within chat to manage integrations with other workspace or third-party services. So couple of examples. One of them is the Google Drive bot here. And this is one that me and some of my colleagues actually use in our day-to-day practice. You can, instead of receiving notifications and file shares via email in Gmail, you can route those notifications, all notifications associated with Drive, into a chat stream instead using the Google Drive chatbot. So whenever I'm added to a file, it's shared with me, or there's an action item assigned to me, it will show as a continuous stream of files within the Drive bot that I can scroll through and access when I need to, and it stops that bombard of emails into my inbox, which is quite nice. So that would be one example. And the other example is also an integration with a Google service. So if I click the drop down for a room, I'm going to add a bot into this room, and this one's called the Meet bot. So if I click this one here, Meet, click send. Now that I've added the Meet bot, this is one that lets me schedule meetings without me having to do any. It takes all of the work out of me as a user in terms of scheduling meetings. I don't have to find a time or coordinate calendars. Let me show you an example of this now. So if we go at Meet, I can type in, let's add the Meet bot, schedule a meeting with Kenneth tomorrow. So now you see that the Meet bot is suggested 4 different times, a couple of them where we're not available, but it has found some time where we are available. And the reason that it's saying that we're not available tomorrow is because that Meet realizes it's a Saturday, and we don't work on Saturdays. So it's found the next available time and given me a couple of options where I can book the meeting. And then all I need to do is simply type the character of the day that I want to pick. So let's go for option D, click enter. So all I need to do is select the character for the meeting time that's appropriate, and you can see that the Meetbot has returned with the scheduled event. It's created it. I can click view in calendar and edit any further details if I need to, but in a couple of clicks, without me having to do any work of finding a time where we're available, the Google Meet bot has created this event for us completely without my requirement, without me needing to do anything at all, which is fantastic. So that would be a couple of ways that you can use bots within Google Chat to integrate with the different services and use clever bits of AI or automation within the chat service. I hope that that deep dive into some of the features and functionality within Rooms showed you some of the ways that you can maybe replace some of the communication that you're doing via email in a more effective way using messaging instead. Some of the reasons that messaging is so much more powerful than email, like I mentioned at the start, is that it's faster than email. It prompts quicker communication and quicker decision making. And it also encourages much more diverse and easy participation. You can reply with quicker messages, and you can use emoji reactions in more easy, fun ways than writing out a full long email. Google Chat is the messaging platform that's built into Workspace, and it allows you to communicate both internally and externally with your Workspace colleagues and also any other Google accounts too, be it other Workspace or consumer. And like I said, Rooms, hopefully you know by now, and I've proved to you that they are a powerful tool for bringing together messaging, files, and tasks to help you work better together. Thanks for taking some time to listen about the amazing magic of chat and particularly Rooms, and hopefully you picked up a couple of tips. And if you're a user of chat today, you can give Rooms out a try and see if they're effective for you. Thank you.